Hello everyone, welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. 'Tis I, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. Hello, DJ.
Hello, Cap.
How's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you?
I am good. It is the penultimate to the 200th episode 199 of the Captain Logan Show, the not as exciting as next week's episode, and we are going to straight away just jump right into questions without any kind of preamble, without any kind of lead-in topic, and we are 24 seconds into the show. This is unheard of, unprecedented for us. DJ, what is our first question, sir?
Whoa, all right. Well, this is amazing. Wow. I wasn't ready for this. Utale wants to know, Cap, how different do you think the pop culture landscape would be if Star Trek was the successful movie franchise and Star Wars was the niche TV show?
Interesting. So, of course, there's no eventuality where that would have happened. Let me start there.
Yeah.
Just because of the way people's sensibilities tend to work, people are going to be a lot more excited about the action and the, space opera and such. But, the action over the space opera, I should say. But the question was, if Star Trek was more successful, what would the landscape of pop culture be? Mm-hmm. Is that what it was?
Yes, that was it.
I think in general, science fiction, like somewhat harder science fiction, would be obviously a lot more popular than it is now, and you'd actually, I think, see a lot more kind of thoughtful, more talky stuff in general for the mainstream. Like, I think for people like me that really like story-driven and character-driven stuff, it would be a kind of a, I don't know, it'd be a better landscape for me anyway. Like, I would much more appreciate that. That's not to say that you wouldn't have adventurous elements to things, but I think what you'd probably end up with is maybe even more of a divide between the people that just want like kind of popcorn entertainment and stuff that is a lot more kind of introspective, where you'd maybe have like this fringe of people that would go every weekend just to be on a ride, and then more people would look down on those people and would see them as like kind of lowbrow, and it would just, I don't know, it'd be more of like an enlightenment kind of culture, you know, it would be like movie and TV watching through the Enlightenment.
It would be interesting if that could ever happen, because It seems like even though older movies are more like that, the people of the time always think movies are like the
lowest form of entertainment.
Yeah, it's like the lowest form. Well, now it's like, it's interesting. It's like intellectuals think the lowest form, but they're actually the most important. But like, yeah, it would be interesting if things have had differently, where the
most validating.
At the very least. But if film was considered like you said, the more highbrow, that would just be an interesting. I mean, this wouldn't just change the pop culture landscape. This would change like just like entertainment landscape in general. Like that'd be a big shift. Interesting question.
And I wonder if I don't know. Like, I wonder if we would go to less visual things when we do adaptations. If it wouldn't be like as much about the big grand spectacle. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, and maybe film wouldn't have continued to just increase budget over the years if we would have maybe locked into more of like play kinds of things.
Well, and actually, something real quick, we really should talk about with this is, if Star Trek somehow is more popular than Star Wars, does television become somehow more popular than film quicker? Because that's a TV show. It starts there. Do we much earlier? This is a more interesting answer, and I wish I'd led with it.
He did say if Star Trek was the successful movie franchise. Each TV show, so they're just switching places.
Yeah. Okay.
But film would have become more. The movies may have become more like that, and TV shows may have become more like these serial adventure things.
Yeah, I was thinking people might want more serialized stuff, but if we're saying like Star Trek on the movie side, then you get to a place where it's a little bit more about the action and adventure than it was on the television side in the first place, and so that would suggest that just science fiction would be more popular than fantasy or science fantasy straight up, I suppose. But then you could kind of argue that it already is anyway, because fantasy films, at least like in the sword and sorcery department, that kind of thing, are not like as popular as you'd think that they would be and that they ought to be.
Yeah, Star Wars didn't help that at all.
No, it really didn't, because it was set in
Lord of the Rings
space.
helped it more. And it still can't get off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
As always, guys, if you want to make sure that your question or comment your topic is discussed on air, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, and we will definitely talk about it and give it a little bit of time. And you can ask us about anything you want to, pop culture related or otherwise within reason. But we are going to pre-written stuff because that's mostly what we've got so far. DJ, what do you see next, sir?
All right, my next one from Daniel Davis. What's a huge mistake you've made throughout your show run that you wish you didn't do?
And now it's time for airing out your dirty laundry, the live show.
And if you can't think of it, we'll remind you in the chat.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure we'll see like a dozen notions, like oceans of notions.
It's our biggest mistake, guys. What don't you like that?
Yeah, when I sit here and him and Han can't think of anything because I want to look perfect and like I've never done anything wrong. We're going to have all these suggestions. No, Cap, don't you remember that really stupid thing? Now, when he says show, does he just mean the Captain Logan show? Or does he mean in the history of the channel?
What's a huge mistake you've made through your show run? Run. I think run leads me to believe that it is just
Suggests the Captain Logan show. Yeah. Well, it depends on what you mean by mistake. I mean, by and large, we've gotten really lucky with this. And it's been moderately successful for the size of the channel and what we do. It's weird that it has become as much of the bread and butter as it has. I think the smartest thing I did was attempt a show where I don't actually have to really prepare and just sit down and talk at the camera and take questions and hope that the questions are interesting and that anybody cares, because I wasn't sure that that would work, and it would have been really easy to just go, nobody's going to care about that. So like, I'm glad I tried it.
Oh, I actually kind of have something.
Yeah,
if you don't mind me saying a little inside baseball.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
A huge mistake, but we tried it for a little bit. It didn't work
real quick before you, because I was going someplace.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. But just real quick, I just wanted to say that like the first thing that springs to mind, because it depends on like what sort of mistake you mean, as far as like monetarily and like making, you know, the business side of what I do. Ever having anybody on that's not me and DJ. And I do those shows because I love doing those shows, and there are some people that are interested, but we always do a lot better view count wise, super chat wise, all of that, when it's just me answering questions or a big lead-in topic that people are interested in. Whenever I've had guests or interviews or anything like that, like the Jonathan Ying show was huge for me, but like we didn't have a big turnout that night because it was so niche with Power Rangers and board games and stuff.
That's true. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I thought you were just kind of killing time until you thought of something. I didn't know you were going somewhere. I'm sorry.
No problem.
The one thing something similar to that is, for a little while we started combining the spoiler casts.
That is the biggest mistake I ever made for this.
And it did not work, and we stopped doing that pretty quickly. It kind of just killed both shows, like, because it cannibalized the regular show, and then so we stopped doing that. But yeah, we got to try stuff.
I was trying really hard to manage my time more wisely.
Yeah.
And it ended up just kind of blowing up in my face, which is why I just don't even try to manage my time anymore. And I'm just kidding. But I was trying not to be on camera more than 3 times a week, especially when the twins were really little. And like they've gotten a little bit easier now, so you've noticed I'm on camera a little bit more often because I've started to be able to do more of that. But I'm still having, like, I'm broadcasting everything live right now, and I don't have time to edit anything. And so, the mistake we made there is I would show up and do a review that was supposed to be 10-15 minutes that would turn into 45 minutes to an hour, partly because we would get questions for things and partly because I'm long-winded and I have too much I want to say, and I don't want to feel like I'm shafting the piece or shafting people that want to hear me talk about a thing. And I lose track of time very easily. I get sucked into a time vortex when I'm doing this job. And so...
Easy to do.
And so what would happen is DJ and I would kind of lose our rapport. DJ would be like really cool about it and just wait until there were questions to ask. But like sometimes he'd sit there for 40 minutes with nothing to do. And then at the point that he was reading questions, that's all he was doing. Because very often I would review things that he had nothing to add. And so we realized that this show has got to be this show. And I had to sacrifice doing some new movie reviews over that. But you know, I would in some ways rather do this anyway, and just it just depends on the thing. Like I've been talking about this a lot lately, where at this point I don't feel the need to try to get every major new movie reviewed unless I'm really interested in it and I want to talk about it, whether it's good or bad. And that's kind of made me relax more and lighten up some, and I think it's more fun for everybody when I do talk about a thing that's new, because like I've mentioned this a lot too, but like lately I felt like the culture is a lot, just in general, is a lot less for me, and there's a lot more stuff that I don't like than I do like. And so when I do actually talk about something brand new, you can be sure that I'll have a lot more enthusiasm. Again, whether it's good or bad, for actually talking about the thing. And so it was a lot smarter to go back to the spoiler cast and how we felt about just, you know, on rare occasion when I actually do those now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you went through that so you could feel, you know, more relaxed, and I think people appreciate it when you're.
Part of the reason I had to change it was I could tell that you were bored, and I was like, I'm going to lose DJ. He's not going to want to do the show anymore.
No, I'm here forever, guys. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I love.
You don't want to say that out loud. I'll hold that to you. Now, I'll hold you to that. Now we've got it on recording, and when I finally get the email where DJ is like, you know, Cap, I'm sorry, I just can't take it anymore. I'll play that audio back, and I'm gonna make that an MP3 this evening. Like, I've got him over a barrel now.
Verbal confirmation, guys. That's verbal contract is binding in the state of Kansas.
In the state of Geekvolution.
We're in the state of Geekvolution right now. This is something I actually thought about talking about tonight. This is a good question. I'm glad this came up. Blue Dragon 5. Cap, have you seen Project Adam yet? And thoughts on, which is a Sean Levy directed movie, and thoughts on Sean Levy directing Deadpool 3 as his third collaboration in a row with Ryan Reynolds.
I don't know what that is, DJ, so enlighten me.
Project Adam, I believe. I just know it's a movie that came out like a couple weeks ago, like this year. It's a brand new movie by Sean Levy, and Sean Levy just did the video game movie with Ryan Reynolds, which was called...
Yeah, Free Guy. I know about that, but just the film he mentioned I've not heard of.
Yeah, I think it's a science fiction thing.
Okay.
Let me know in the chat if it's not. It sounds like it, Project Adam, but
I've heard mixed things on Free Guy. That didn't look super appealing to me. Like, I might check it out at some point. I think it's on Max already or wherever that's streaming. Or was that a Disney thing? No, that must have been a Disney thing, right?
It's a Fox thing, so yeah, Disney has it now. My wife watched it on the plane recently, and I saw some of it over her shoulder. But yeah, so Deadpool 3 he's directing, which will be their third collaboration, which... Oh, Sean Levy on Deadpool 3 is weird. I don't know how I feel about that. He is just like a mediocre, middle-of-the-road service director.
To be fair, though, you could say the same thing about the Deadpool 1 director, and I think that movie is fairly well directed. I mean, that was directed by a guy that
But at least he was a special effects guy that did action.
Special effects guy first, yeah.
Sean Levy doesn't really have good action movies on his resume.
Yeah, but again, I haven't seen Free Guy, and that looked like it was somewhat action-driven.
Yeah, maybe so.
So I don't know. I mean, it's a video game thing, and they showed a lot of stuff in the trailer that I would call kind of Deadpool-esque action. But yeah, I wasn't surprised by that announcement when I heard that Free Guy had a bunch of advertising that was trying to use Deadpool to sell that in a completely unrelated movie. Like, of course he's going to direct that. I guess they've professionally gotten married now, him and Ryan Reynolds, and that's who directs Ryan Reynolds' movies now.
Yeah, I know he directed Real Steel and Night at the Museum, but
Real Steel I've seen, and I mean, serviceable directing. I wouldn't have
what
anything.
I'm they're like, yeah, that's a good movie. Yeah, Night at the Museum, one of the better kids movies. Couple decades.
I did review that by request at one point, and I probably had nothing to say about directing or cinematography. Like, that was a lot more about story and performance. But that's a fine movie.
Yeah, I like that movie. I own that movie.
I thought Jackman and that kid had really good rapport in that movie.
Yeah, I like that kid.
That's pretty good. So I don't have any thoughts on him directing Deadpool 3 because I haven't seen enough of his work. But I would, except to say that I wouldn't think that you would go to like an auteur sort of director. I would think that that Disney would want somebody that was kind of just a workman director for that material. A lot of people are suggesting that that's more fuel for the fire, that even if it is rated R, it's going to be a little bit more, watered down and less raunchy and stuff. And we'll see if that's the case. But I think people are worried about quote unquote weak sauce with that movie, it being under Disney and with that director. So I guess we'll see. But
it just more speaks to like Ryan Reynolds' career, that he went from like not being able to get the movies he wanted at all to like now he can pick his directors. That's how big he is at this point. Like you'd make a couple movies with him and now you're just like his go-to director. That's crazy.
Isn't it weird though to be so successful that you're still kind of typecast even though you're picking your own projects? Like it feels like he's just playing Deadpool over and over again, and I can't decide if he wants to do that or if he's pigeonholed in some way. Like it does feel like being but like really successful typecasting. It's not that people won't hire you to do something else; is that they think that Deadpool should be everything.
I don't know if he's stuck in that or if that's what he just wants to do. Maybe it's just the Adam Sandler thing where that's just what he wants to make and he's having fun making it.
He does have a really particular brand of humor. So he's going to play himself in everything he's in kind of the same way Keanu Reeves plays himself in everything he's in, with rare exception with both of those guys. Because Reynolds is, like, everybody likes to bring up, what is the name of that movie where he's buried alive? I quite liked that.
Buried.
And, okay, there you go. The movie where he's buried is called Buried. Buried alive! Buried alive! But anyway, he is... he's not doing that whole shtick in that, and that felt like
amazing if you want. He's just making jokes to like nobody, just in the coffin to himself.
That's like a one-room play, less than a one-room play, and you're thinking, oh, okay, so Ryan Reynolds is like an actor then.
So people were, real quick before I move on, people were chiming in that the Adam Project is a science fiction film.
Okay.
Or, no, sorry, a time travel film.
Okay. Which would also be inherently science fiction, unless there's some sort of a fantasy mechanic that gets you to the time travel, DJ.
Yeah. I said sci-fi. They were saying specifically it's a time travel thing, so that's cool. Let's see, what's the next super... Oh, jumping in the super chats, we got T-Edge1.
Hi, Tom.
What is the worst thing that you've reviewed for the channel? Can be any review, like what product was the worst, not worst done, what was the best thing? Okay, sorry. So worst thing you've ever reviewed and best thing you've ever reviewed, but he's not saying based on your review, just the product itself. What was
so not what's the worst review, but what's the worst thing that you had to sit through or read or whatever.
Yeah, and they squeezed in what was the best at the end there.
It's hard not to immediately assume it must be a Spawn comic.
I don't know, you did review The Incredible Bulk or whatever.
No, I didn't. I did not actually end up having to sit through that.
Oh, okay.
Do you know about what happened with Incredible Bulk? Back Studios sent me that movie, and the disc didn't work.
Oh, that's right.
And Brandon and I sat down to do a blind commentary on it. I wasn't even going to have to review it. It was for a blind commentary. And we put it in, and it was really funny because we had because you know how long-winded I am. We had 10 minutes of preamble on this. And then we hit play and nothing happened. Luckily, we weren't live streaming, and so we had to start the video over and pick something else. So that was when we decided to do a blind commentary on Apollo 18. Not the TMBG album, but the horror film. That was not fun enough to do, unfortunately. But we...
Like all the blind commentaries we've ever done.
That's been more than a mixed bag, yeah.
Oh, but that's fast. That's actually interesting that with all the live commentaries we've done, that's never happened any other time.
That's really lucky. Well, we usually pick stuff that we can stream. So the only way it would break down is if you had an internet problem, and at that point, you wouldn't be streaming anymore anyway. I mean, we could have something break down in the streaming service, I guess, and things like that have kind of happened, but usually we're able to somehow fix it in the process, and yeah. But you're right, I don't know that we've ever... gotten, I don't know, half an hour into a commentary live and had to stop and start over or anything really.
Yeah, which is pretty I mean, that's pretty interesting because I've had that happen where movies just stop or like the streaming service says it won't load right now or whatever, and you have to start it over and stuff.
Pro tip, if you're doing a commentary for, and then I'll totally answer the question. If you're doing a commentary for a YouTube channel or something like this, and or, you know, remotely over the internet with other people, don't use a Fire Stick. Because I'm finding the more that I'm using that, the more that certain services work better than other services that work fine on my desktop. But then when I go to the Fire Stick, I have all kinds of problems with. I have issues all the time with Disney Plus and with Paramount Plus. And I complain a lot about Paramount Plus, and I hate Paramount Plus no matter where it is, but I especially have huge issues with it on the Fire Stick. And even Max will occasionally kind of putter on me and will like pause in weird places and stuff. And I don't have that anywhere else with Max, just with the Fire Stick.
Interesting.
And you'll try to like delete your cache and stuff, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. So
worst thing.
Worst thing I ever reviewed. So there are a couple of movies that I had reviewed for Superhero Rewind that come to mind that I always talk about with bad things. Son of the Mask obviously was really terrible. In the early days, my least favorite movie to have to watch and talk about was My Super Ex-Girlfriend. That has been surpassed a few times now, probably. I mean, Super Buddies is awful, but was fun to talk about. So yeah, it's difficult to say as far as Superhero Rewinds. I mean, the most maddening thing to have to write about was BVS, which is why that review is 5 hours. And my apologies to everybody for the fact that that was 5 hours. And then I broke it up though, so you know, there's that. And then beyond that, it's got to be one of those issues in the middle of Curse of the Spawn. When I was doing Spawn Year, that stuff was awful. And I will name drop the writer, because it's Alan McElroy, who's one of the main writers on Star Trek Picard right now.
Oh, wow.
I say right now, from the beginning. And I still can't help but make fun of the fact that they had to go so far to the bottom of the barrel. They went to a guy that had hardly any credits. And what few credits he had was the Spawn movie and issues of Curse of the Spawn. It's really unfortunate. But yeah, top of my head, it's those few things.
And then I guess best thing would probably be like Batman Begins or one of your favorite movies, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to pick an absolute best thing. I mean, you guys know my favorite movies because and the stuff that I've talked about on the channel because I gush about them all the time.
Yeah.
I just watched and reviewed a wonderful movie this week about a man who drives cross country on a lawnmower.
Yes.
It sounds boring, but it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he finally. I haven't seen that yet, but that's Connor's guy right there.
And we keep talking about Facing the Crowd, but I haven't actually reviewed that yet.
That's true.
I need to do a video on that.
Hopefully someday we can do that. Chewbacca's Lover.
Chewbacca's Lover. I don't think Alan McElroy wrote on the HBO Spawn series, but he may have. And that's better than some other Spawn stuff. Chewbacca's Lover. I also remember Alan McElroy writing comics you liked. Well, he might have. I don't remember that. But I mean, it's been a lot of years. Do you realize that we are 2 years away from No, we're 1 year away from the 10th anniversary of Spawn Year.
What? That does not seem like that long ago. Wow.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, it doesn't seem possible. It's 2 years away from the anniversary of my having finished that show, which is a bigger deal for me. But I want to do something for it. I'm not sure what yet. Not Spawn Year 2. I'm not announcing that.
Spawn Year 2. He's buying back all the comics again.
I want to do something for it. And I mean, I've already done, a commentary on the big finale movie that we made and stuff like that. So, I don't want to come back and repeat myself and do the same thing. So, if anybody has any cool ideas, let me know. I might come back and... I won't say I wouldn't review some newer Spawn. That's a thing I might do. But I don't really want to have to read it, so I don't know.
Mutale, when we were talking about Disney Plus, said, speaking of Disney Plus, the Netflix shows arrived yesterday, which I did see because I got the prompt.
Oh, I did not notice that. I knew they were coming, obviously.
If you log in, you get
We've
the
talked about
prompt,
that.
and it says, click here, or click continue to view all content. They frame it like I actually took a screenshot because
Oh, wow.
I was very interested in how they were going to market it, because I know it's Disney breaking their like family thing. They say access the full catalog, and then you click the full catalog button, which you can change your settings to TVMA, and then you can see everything. You're not seeing everything if you don't change that, but yeah.
That's probably, it being Disney, the right way to play that. Let's talk about this for a minute, if you don't mind, DJ. How do you feel about this being a controversy at all? There's been a lot of parents that have come out complaining that Disney Plus would have anything as rough as the Netflix shows there, and that they have rated R things now. And again, I think they already did some, but I don't think people noticed it until it became news. So now it's like, oh wait, you're doing this kind of thing. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sympathetic. I understand, I understand the mentality of some parents who just want a streaming service where they feel like they can just kind of, that they don't have to worry about it, you know? Not necessarily being lazy. I think that you can be lazy and not pay attention to what your kids are doing, but I think just the security of having something that you don't have to even worry about that, I think is cool. I think, like you said, I think they've been getting close lately anyway. I think they've got the newer X-Men movies on there, and those are pretty dark, and some other stuff. I mean, I don't think quite as dark. So I get the, I don't want to say outrage. I do get people that are a little concerned about it or they're not happy about it. I do like the way Disney's handling it, where they don't automatically switch you to TVMA and then prompt you to turn it off. They leave it where it is, and you have to go in and change it to TVMA. So if you don't do anything, it'll still stay the same Disney Plus. You actually have to go in to unlock that content. So that's nice. I'm glad they're at least doing it that way. But yeah, I mean, I understand both sides. I don't know. I use Disney Plus mainly for my kids. But yeah. I watch it with them, so it's not a huge problem for me.
And it's probably true the majority of people do. I'm somewhat sympathetic as well, although I think it's a mistake as a parent to, I don't want to tell people how to raise their kids or whatever, but I do think it is a mistake maybe to fall into the trap of, well, it's this one, and you alluded to this, it's this one service where I never have to worry about what they're watching. And alarm bells go off in my head, and I'm like, I think you should always probably know what your kids are watching.
Exactly, yeah.
Even if it's a service that is ostensibly all kid-friendly, well, there's plenty of PG-13 stuff there. There are MCU movies that my wife didn't want my kids to watch until they got to a certain age, just because of, certain scenes, like bordering on torture scenes and stuff like that, like the Civil War. Winter Soldier is maybe a little bit intense for like a 6 or 7 year old. So the idea that you can give your kid a remote and here's the service where anything they watch is going to be okay, you might want to look over their shoulder and make sure that that's it, because you're also trusting a big corporation to make that decision for your kids.
Exactly.
And that doesn't seem to be responsible to me. But
which is why I don't agree fully. I agree with the sentiment, but I think it's a false pretense. If it was completely kid safe, I would agree with it. But if you're believing that it's completely kid safe, then you just don't know what's on there, because
there's also a difference between kid safe and what the messages of the thing are, and what the sensibilities and the worldview and ideology and stuff. I don't know that I would ever say, like with say a PBS app or something, hey kid, go sit down, you can watch anything on this, it's all safe. I still want to know what he's watching on it, even with PBS. Like, yes, it's all rated G. You're not gonna, it would be you would feel like it was abhorrent if you saw any profanity or blood or anything in that streaming service. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna be okay with all the content.
Yeah, which is why I say I'm sympathetic to it, but
does it go with the lessons you're teaching your children? Does it go with, if you're religious, does it go with your values? Even if you're not religious, does it go with your values?
Yeah, which is why I say I'm sympathetic to the idea, but I don't agree with it, because I am very into knowing exactly what I'm showing my kids when I show it to them, and I don't just go by the rating. I actually look into it or watch it first.
I think if you're Disney, and I'm not taking up for this giant mega corporation that is taking over too much of the world, but if if I'm Disney, I'm gonna have the mentality of I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I'm not on this, and I think this is probably closest to the high road that they can take, especially because they're, like you said, there's a built-in empathy of, we know that you expect the service to be kid-friendly. If they just dropped it and went, okay, we're HBO Max now, that's a mistake. Like, Max at least started this way, where within it was
HBO.
They're almost more apologetic for all the kid-friendly stuff there.
Sorry, we got Cartoon Network and
we got Sesame Street, okay? If you're... Well, Cartoon Network gives you Adult Swim. That's what's really funny. And I actually appreciate this about... And then I'll go back to what I was saying. I actually appreciate this about HBO Max, that they have split up in their tabs for like, different properties. They've got... Or different categories of... sort of I'm looking for companies. They have Cartoon Network and Adult Swim separate. Like, it's all Cartoon Network. But that is smart. Like, I appreciate that. So I don't know, that they're being responsible there. But anyway, going back to Disney for a minute, if I'm Disney, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you put the R-rated stuff, like, what are you gonna not use it, not sell it on a streaming service? If you put it on Disney Plus, people complain that that's supposed to be a kid-friendly family service. If you put it on a separate service, people are going to complain that you're one company that owns it all, but I have to pay twice. And so, if you think about it, for the sake of the that's actually really consumer friendly, that they would rope it in with what you're already paying for and not charge you a higher price.
Yeah.
Just on the business side, that's actually consumer friendly.
Yeah, I have no qualms with Disney, and I think people...
Well, I have lots of qualms with Disney.
Yep, sorry.
But
about this one thing. I gotta watch what I see.
He was paid by Disney, folks.
Yeah. So, but I do think the people that are being outraged for, I think they just...
I don't know why they're paying you. I've never seen a dime from Disney, but they're paying my chat moderator. I don't understand that.
But yeah, I think people are being outrageous, or pretending to be outraged, or actually being outraged. Just, I think that's ridiculous, because you don't have to have it on. You don't even have to turn it on. It stays off by default. So that's, I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. But
also, it's nice that all the Marvel stuff is going to be in one place. And like I've said before, I hope that it gets recanonicized. Or we know for sure that it's canonical or not. Because then it's going to be really confusing that it's there. And I realize that there's other non-canonical things there that Fox and other companies made with the Marvel property, or with Marvel properties, but like that's stuff that references MCU. If people watch it for the first time on Disney Plus and then it ends up not counting, I don't understand.
Yeah,
and it's not all there. You don't have the freeform stuff. You don't. I don't think you have like you don't have the things that Hulu made that was ostensibly MCU, but MCU never talks about. You know what I'm talking about? Like Runaways was ostensibly MCU, and so was Cloak and Dagger. Like, nobody remembers that was even a show. It was on for 2 if not 3 seasons, but nobody saw it. I think I was the one person that watched that pilot. I've never heard anybody else talk about that.
And I don't think Inhumans is on Disney Plus
Inhumans
yet?
is there, I think.
Oh, is it?
We talked about this recently, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they still got a little bit, but they've got all the main stuff now, which is nice to have it all in one place, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Which no one... I love that was part of this, but just no one's talking about it.
Yeah, no one cares.
Oh, and they did do...
they also talk about it like Netflix made that show in a lot of those articles. Like all the Netflix shows, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was like, they had a contract, and
it went to Netflix right away.
It exclusively went to Netflix, but it didn't air there. And that wasn't one of those shows that started on, that wasn't like Lucifer. It didn't start on a network and then go to Netflix. It was, am I right about that? I think it was always on ABC, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't think it ever turned into a streaming show. Which is crazy that it lasted that long on network.
It wasn't like Designated Survivor.
What the heck is that?
Oh, that's a cool political show with Kiefer Sutherland that was on Fox, and then went to Netflix for I think 1 more season to wrap stuff up. But I never finished that show, but I actually enjoyed that quite a bit. It was fun to see Kiefer Sutherland play the anti-Jack Bauer. It's like the exact opposite character of Jack Bauer, who becomes president.
Wow, that's a great segue to our next question from Chewbacca's Lover. But real quick, I did want to say we were right.
Yeah.
They are calling it the Defenders Saga. on Netflix. They have that.
Are they really?
I said they were going to call it Defenders. I didn't think they would use the word saga because that sounds really weird, but that's what it's called.
Oh, that's goofy.
Defenders
Especially
saga.
because there's no self-awareness there. Most everybody didn't like Defenders. So to be like, to call it that, like the Infinity Saga, like, yeah, we're sort of moving toward infinity all the way through, and people are interested in the stones and all that, and then you get to those movies and people, by and large, liked them. Not so with Defenders, and things were not always moving toward that in the first place. That was, hey, look, we have all these characters that we gave their own TV shows, and we've got to do the Avengers thing. I mean, we found out that they were doing Defenders pretty early, but it's not like when they made that first season of Daredevil, they, in the back of their minds, were like, we're going to make Defenders. I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know we did know about that really early. I can't remember if it was like, if they knew that going in or what. But Chewbacca's Lover gives us a $5 super chat.
Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, sorry. I know that was like a 10-minute tirade about a thing that nobody asked about.
It was in the live chat, at least.
But when that came up, I was kind of curious to know what DJ thought about the controversy surrounding the Netflix shows going to Disney Plus. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the controversy is kind of ridiculous, but I am partially sympathetic.
I figured I would ask a question. I'll give you your super chat money later.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I'll give it back to you after. Chewbacca's Lover, $5. Thoughts on Stacey Abrams, real-life left-wing politician, cameoing on Star Trek STD as the president of Earth? Some people think it's too political.
Well, you're about 4 years too late with that. Like, I don't know, you think that's the thing that's too political about Star Trek Discovery? Like, going all the way back, that's a really pandery thing. And I've always said this, but what's great about all the panderiness with the, like, you're progressive like us and believe everything we believe, right? Like, I mean, Kurtzman has come out and said, if you don't think like we do, don't watch Star Trek. And he's basically just come out and said that. Like, conservatives are not welcome here. Which I would think would be the opposite, even if you had a big political agenda of what you want to say, which is, we hope to change hearts and minds. No, they're not interested in that. It's just, like, preaching to the choir and only wanting the choir to show up, Like, new Star Trek is basically a cult. They don't know it, but...
It's just like a pep rally. It's just like a pump-up show.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch this to get all hyped and go... It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm kidding. It's not a cult. But there are things about it that kind of feel a little bit cult-like. Not in fans and stuff, just the way they talk about their Kurtzman. He's a cult of personality. Anyway, but the thing that I always like to make fun of with those shows is that they feel really super preachy, and I never know what they're actually preaching. Like, I don't know what the message is supposed to be. It's propaganda, but you don't even know what you're, like, trying to prop up.
Wow, that's impressive. How do you feel preachy, but you're not even hitting me over the head with your actual message?
I mean, there's things here and there where it's like, hey, you're really fine with gay people, right? I'm like, yeah, sure am, and I expect that in Star Trek at this point. Like Star Trek's the one, if there's no other place where you just have people of every kinds of walks of life that show up and don't comment on it because it's normal, it's Star Trek. And we because, that was always super diverse going all the way back. And now we have to comment on it. We have to pat ourselves on the back for doing it. So no, that doesn't surprise me in the least, is what I'm trying to say.
President of Earth. Is she playing Stacey Abrams, or is she just...
No, she would be having to play a character. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure... I mean, I haven't watched since the beginning of Season 3, and I don't plan to go back to that show, but I think they're still 1,000 years in the future, unless they've gone back already.
Okay. But
I would be shocked if they went... Well, I wouldn't be shocked by anything that show does, but, like, they hand-waved all the stuff that would ruin... I mean... They have things that already would ruin later continuity anyway, but they kind of hand-waved everything that you just can't have in that show for later Star Trek to work, like the Spore Drive, like Burnham herself, etc., and then they send them to 1,000 years in the future, and they just go, no one's allowed to talk about any of the things that aren't supposed to have happened that don't make any sense with Star Trek. That's how they hand-waved it away, DJ, is they just made everything classified. It's really fun. Okay. Mirror Universe, classified. Spore Drive, classified. Okay, those things don't exist. And then we'll just keep doing the show well in the future where it's fine. When we could have just, like, made a show that moves forward in the first place.
Nah,
But anyway, so
people don't
yeah,
want that.
wherever that is, though, it couldn't be a character that exists now unless they did a time travel thing to go back and get a really important politician to be like, she can fix the Federation.
Yeah, the Stacey Abrams who ran for governor in 2022 for Georgia and didn't make it. The best. She's the only chance we have.
And I mean, I don't keep up with politics. I don't know anything about her or her platform or anything.
I only know her name because I live in Georgia. So
Sure.
I hear it all the time. But
DJ, President of Earth is not silly because you have a one world government in Star Trek, and you do have a president of Earth. So like that's just normal.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
wherever that does happen, Cap will eventually see it because he's just too curious.
I don't know, man. I was trying to watch through Discovery with Brandon because he hadn't seen it and he's not paying for Paramount Plus, but he was really curious, and even though everything I told him about it sounded horrible, he was like, "Nah, it's Star Trek. I have to know." And I'm like, "But Brandon, you call yourself this giant Star Trek fan. There's these swaths of great Star Trek you've never even bothered to watch, but this you have to see. You've never finished DS9. This you have to see." Okay, but anyway, so we were watching it, and we watched the seasons I had seen already, and it was fun making fun of them along with Brandon and just seeing his heart sink when he realized that he wasn't watching anything close to real Star Trek. And then a few episodes in, when he starts being just hilariously like shocked by how bizarre and confusing and the whole thing is. And then we get to season 3, and I had only seen the first episode of that, and we watched like 2 or 3 more in, and I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I got so angry, I just started, like, screaming at the screen. I couldn't deal with it. I was really short with Brandon at one point. We talked about this. I think we went on camera a few days after it happened, and we were laughing about this in hindsight. But, like, I snapped at Brandon while watching the show because I was so angry, and I accidentally took it out on Brandon. I was like, Brandon, I can't. This is turning me into a horrible person. I can't watch this anymore. That's how upset I'm getting.
That's amazing.
But yeah, he just got absolutely flummoxed. It was fun to watch.
So we got John Ty.
Yeah.
The super chats. He says, "Do you think internet personalities are highly regarded, or I'm assuming he means as highly regarded as Hollywood celebrities nowadays?"
Man, I think who asked that?
John Ty.
John Ty. Great question,
Old
John.
faithful.
Yeah, and real brief and to the point too. That's a great question. I think, like with everything these days, because the culture is so splintered, it just depends on who you ask, right? Yeah. I think we have a younger generation growing up now. What are they calling them? Zoomers now? You have this younger generation growing up now that some of them, if not a lot of them, would likely not know some of the celebrities that you and I are talking about all the time, and even celebrities like under the age of 30 or 40, where it's like maybe they go see some big Hollywood movies, maybe they don't. But for them, the real famous people they look up to are people that sit in their basement and play video games or do reaction videos or just talk at a camera, because I think part of that is because that's in the realm of possibility for them in their minds. Like, you look up to those people because you can see yourself eventually getting to do that. It's not the pipe dream that Hollywood is. I don't know how many kids growing up now want to be actors and directors and such. I don't know how many of them are watching anything close to broadcast television. And I mean, sure, like, I'm sure a lot of kids have, like, their few shows, or things that they watch with their family and stuff. But, like, the kids that my son, Jason, at 11 hangs out with, they're not talking about movies and TV shows. They're talking about, like kids and young adults playing video games online. They're talking, like I hear Jason talk about people like Dream and stuff, people I never would have heard of if it weren't for Jason. And these are, like, some of these guys are multimillionaires. So yeah, I think it depends on the circles that you go in. But I don't think it's like when I was growing up where you could bring up somebody that would be classified as a celebrity and people would have to have a debate about whether or not it counted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. It does depend on. I think it is a generational thing. It does depend on who you're talking about, and what's really interesting is how many internet celebrities go on to be traditional
Of
celebrities,
course,
right?
yeah.
Like still, like there's that one girl who
Well, the properties will get bought up by a big corporation, a studio or something, and they'll make a they'll give them their own TV show or their own movie or whatever
yeah.
it is.
Or there's just like directors, like guys who come or actors that come from like Bo Burnham who comes from YouTube, or like the Lonely Island guys. I can't remember his name, but has a show for like 9 years now, and he got movies and like
this happens with music a lot.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. I know it's not Hollywood, but there's a girl who just got like all she did was upload her songs to TikTok, and she got so famous that she like broke the record for most songs in the top 10 for like a specific period, like beat out Taylor Swift for it, and now she's got like tons of record deals. So now she's in the traditional, but all she was doing was uploading her songs to TikTok, and like it's very interesting that people want to aspire to be that, but they don't necessarily want to go to the mainstream Hollywood and the record companies, even though it seems like the creators do. Like they're still using the platforms to get to that one. I don't know. It's really interesting.
Yeah, but the people that are watching them want to do what they're doing. And,
yeah, it's like I'm just doing this to get a record deal.
Well, and I think, and I don't want to throw kids under the bus because kids tend to be really smart. Mm-hmm. But I do think, but I can also see the appeal of it, where it's like, well, working for yourself, you don't have a boss. That's obviously really appealing when you're a kid and you don't like your parents looming over everything you do and telling you, who you can see and where you can go and, et cetera, et cetera. But it also looks easier than the traditional route of becoming popular or famous or, what have you. Mm. Like, oh, you mean I don't have to even rent a studio? I can just stay home in my house and thousands of people will watch me and I get paid for doing that. Obviously, that's really appealing. When I was a kid, what I do right now seemed like an absolute pipe dream. I never could have imagined that I would be able to not just make any kind of money doing what I do, not just that anybody would watch, but that there would be any sort of a platform. When I was a kid, I've never talked about this, I don't think. I had this dream of making a weekly kind of variety show, kind of TV show sort of thing. And I had a video camera at the point that I never seriously considered it because there wasn't a platform. But at the point that I had this idea, I was like, wouldn't it be cool? Because I always wanted to get into comedy, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could just produce my own comedy show? And I guess I could show it to my family. Like, who would I show it to? And then, just as YouTube came around, I came up with the idea of doing a sort of pseudo kid show with my stuffed monkey, with the monkey, who I've done videos on the channel with, and I made a few of those, and I just put them out there. And this was really early YouTube. I was doing this in 2008. YouTube's 2 years old, and didn't gain any traction. Nobody's watching it, but I'm sending it out to my family and friends, and they're loving it. And whenever I would go to parties with different people in my family's houses, they would always ask me to pull it out and show monkey episodes. And I was like, this is awesome. I've always wanted to do this. It's a shame that I can't build any kind of an audience and get any traction. And then I got really lucky, of course, with the Rewind thing and with Geeks Not Nerds, that I actually was able to get that kind of traction. And I never imagined, and obviously I'm real small potatoes on YouTube, but like there's a community now. And it's really easy to some degree to take it for granted because so many people are doing this now and so many people have small audiences or very large audiences. But every now and again, I have to kind of take a step back for a minute and go, it is remarkable that this is viable now. And I cannot put myself in the shoes of kids that grow up with it always being viable. I don't know what it's like being my kid, seeing their dad do this as his career and know that all you have to do is ostensibly is put out good content and you might get noticed and you might be able to build a following. And yeah, like I think people, by the way, overplay how impossible it is to get noticed on YouTube now and how oversaturated it is. Very, very oversaturated, obviously. And it is hard to get noticed and to turn this into something that's viable, especially on a monetary level. But I hear people always say that, like, it's half of 1%, or it's like 1% of people that try it that ever gain any sort of audience. And I'm like, that's kind of relative, though. I see all kinds of people that have the kind of level of subscriber count or the level of view count that I have, and it's worth it enough for me to keep going. I don't know what people's... I'm rambling now. I don't know what people's levels are with this, DJ, where it's like, at what point does it count? Like, do I have to have a 100,000 subscriber channel before what I do is a waste of time? We've got 42 people watching right now. They don't think this is a waste of time. I'll talk to 42 people. I'll talk, in a live stream. I'll talk to 10 or 12 people in a live stream. Like, it's all really relative to me. Because when I was a kid, I would have been excited to get 5 people in a room to watch me do some kind of a comedy routine.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're live streaming to like 15 people, and it's still just as fun. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, no, I love it, and like I said, like it's hard in some ways. It's hard not to take it for granted because I mean I've been doing this for so long, and again, a lot of people are doing this, and it's viable. But at the same time, I'll kind of never take it for granted because I never thought I'd be able to do that. And I'm not just talking about how cool it is that I got lucky. I'm talking about how cool it is that there's a platform. And there's a lot of stuff that I hate about YouTube, but it's. Like when I was younger, it seemed like in a thing that would never happen for anybody. That like you had to, and because this started with a conversation about fame, you had to have a record label, you had to have a movie studio notice you before anything like this would ever happen for you. And now you don't have to have that.
Absolutely.
It's not quite the Wild West on the internet anymore, and YouTube is too corporate, and they still seem to care too much about the big corporate entities over the little guys doing what I'm doing, but nobody stepped in and made it impossible yet for us to build an audience. It's maybe harder, but it's not impossible.
No, you can absolutely do it. And yeah, it's crazy. The fact that it's been along for so long. I mean, 2006 to 2022, it's like 16 years, and it's stayed as user-friendly as it has. I mean, it's pretty great.
All of that, again, I know I rambled about that a little bit, but all of that to say, I get why kids might see more of the appeal in the independent stuff than the mainstream stuff now. And I also don't even know what mainstream means anymore. One of the things that's really weird about the culture now, again, is just how splintered everybody is, and like my mainstream is not your mainstream.
Yeah, everything's. Yeah, it's like the word.
We all live in very little like it's a lot more like living in a multiverse than a universe at this point with culture.
Yeah, it's like the word cool has no meaning anymore. Cool used to be like what was popular at the time.
What is trendy? What does that mean anymore? Yeah. And
every group has their own thing that's cool to them, which I love. Obviously, I don't think that there should be like a cool thing, and like if you're not into that, you're like one of the loser kids. I don't like that, so I'm glad. It's good. Yeah. I think it's a good thing the way it's going.
It is, but the world is moving so quickly that it's really hard to get used to, and there are certainly drawbacks to it. It makes it harder to communicate, and it makes it harder to know where you stand with people. Because the problem is people aren't self-aware enough about how quickly the world is changing, but also about all the different I'll use the analogy again, universes that we all live in, a multiverse that is very small, where like it's very easy to walk from one universe to the next. It's not as easy to navigate it and understand what you're looking at. Like, you're going to an alien planet, DJ, and you don't necessarily speak the language, but you think you do because it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That's where we're at now, is people aren't self-aware enough to realize that their standards are not going to be everybody else's standards, and that we're not all on the same playing field. And so that gets difficult with just like cultural references, like talking to people and expecting us to have the same touchstones. But it also makes it really difficult with obviously social politics and things, where you think that that a lot of people that you talk to will see the world the same way you do, and they don't, because a lot of different places you go, the majority of people there might think the same, but not necessarily like the people in the universe next door.
Yeah. Even with smaller things like people not being able to fathom that you don't like No Way Home or something like that. Like, what are you talking about? It's the big. Everyone loves it. It's like there's definitely stuff like that.
Well, how often do you hear that? Like, I haven't run into one person that didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
And then I'll hear that from a person, and I'll come back with, that's really funny because nobody I know likes it. And I'm not talking about with No Way Home necessarily. I'm talking with just anything. This happens all the time. And so there's this assumption about consensus, and that there is consensus. Be like, well, in my circles, yeah, well, that's because we all live in a world of algorithms now.
Especially if you're talking about online.
Yeah.
Because there's some documentary about that talks about how everything is tailored to.
And then life versus online. You're in your local circles with people that you see on a regular basis, or maybe you live in an area where a lot of people everybody's conservative, everybody's liberal, whatever it is, and the conversations are kind of the same, and there is a consensus for certain. Everybody agrees with this movie, or everybody thinks this politician's an idiot, or whatever it is, and then you get online. And you're overwhelmed by how completely against the grain it seems the rest of the world. I gotta quit flailing my hands around so much.
Took that mic out like a samurai sword.
I wish I'd done it with a samurai sword. That would have been awesome. Okay, we are 55 minutes in. I don't know how many questions we've gotten to. We started fast, but we've been moving real slow. Let's get to some more questions.
We've done good with three pre-writtens and 3 super chats. Let's go on to super chat number 4. TH1 $10. I'm just gonna read it. I don't know what it says yet. A dad, I think is supposed to be a space there. A dad streams commercials from his childhood from a different channel with his son, the corporate overlord. Take down the dad's video, but not the commercial video that the dad streamed. Where's the justice?
Yeah, that's weird. I hadn't heard about that. And I don't know what channel we're talking about, but...
Is he not talking about you and Jason's video about the childhood commercials?
No, it sounds like he's talking about somebody that's got a channel that does 2 different kinds of content.
Oh, okay. I thought he was doing like a...
Maybe. I don't know. Who was that? Was that Tom?
Yeah, it was Tom.
That sounded like a Tom comment, but I wasn't sure what he was talking about. I'm still not sure what he was talking about.
Is he talking about your commercial video that got taken down or something? I don't know.
Didn't.
Oh.
No, shockingly, I was able to monetize that video.
All right, Tom, let us know what you're talking about. Bob the Hun, $5. For the anniversary, you need to do your pitch for Ultimate Spawn, a reboot of Spawn where you make it good / make sense. You started doing this on a stream one time.
Oh, did I? I would have to go back and see what I said, because I don't remember any of that. But I bet if I sat... I'm not going to. I bet if I sat here right now and tried to think of all the ways in which Spawn should be, retooled for a reboot, I would say all the same things I said before. But I don't remember doing that. That's really funny. That's a good idea. Except it would be like Spawn Year, where the people that liked it really enjoyed it. And the people that could not care less would be like, well, just quit it with a Spawn already. Nobody cares.
Story of our life. Another one from TH1. Speaking of Disney, Disney has had some backlash from parent associations going so far as saying what's next. Okay, so I'm glad we talked about this because we did get a super chat about it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
He said, I don't know if he said, some parent associations going so far as saying, what's next? Strippers at Disneyland? do you think Disney will back down? Never mind, you're talking about it now. So he was writing the super chat while we were talking about it, and then
that's awesome.
He still submitted it. Thank you so
much.
Yeah,
sorry I got ahead of your super chat, but I will answer that real quick, especially because you left a super chat, and I appreciate. I always want to give those their due, of course. Obviously, like strippers at Disneyland is a preposterous.
That quote is dumb, yeah, hyperbole.
It's definitely hyperbole. What's the word I was looking for? It's
Astropreposterous.
I had a thing and I just can't think of what it's called. But anyway, it does not. It just doesn't go with what they're actually doing. It's not like they're putting like porn on Disney. Like I don't.
Yeah, it's not like they're
on Disney Plus.
It's just taking everything out of context.
Totally out of context.
Content that's already made, that's linked to a universe. It's not like they're this is our gateway drug to R-rated. But it is interesting. I don't know if more R-rated content's gonna go on there.
Disney is gonna gain subscribers before they lose them, and at the end of the day, it's bottom line. That's all they're gonna care about. So why would they back down? And also, name in history the number of times that big corporations have backed down just because parents got upset, unless it really hurt their bottom line. Doesn't happen that often. You won't see this with Disney, I don't think. You could, in a case like this, maybe see like an apology with an explanation of why we won't change, but we get why you're angry. I could maybe see that, but they won't back down.
That would be pretty funny. We're very sorry, but sorry. We're not changing.
Sorry, but not sorry?
Sorry, not sorry. Oh, I hate that expression.
Yeah, but it's apt. It's apropos here.
Tom put in a $2 super chat. He said, DJ is right. It's telling me WB took that video down. So he is talking about your video.
Oh, is it? You know what? That would explain why it stopped at a certain view count and nobody else is watching it.
I thought he was right because I tried to watch it and I couldn't watch it either.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I was afraid that might happen, but I wanted to test it out and see if we could get away with that. I was like, how come nobody's watching this video? It stopped at 180 views and it was there for hours and hours.
It's weird you didn't get an email or notification about it getting taken down.
Oh, I might have, but I don't check my Geeflution email as often as my regular email, so I have not looked at that today.
All right, well.
Okay, well, thanks for the information. On my end, I couldn't tell that had happened just looking at my regular YouTube app.
Gotcha. Super Billy, with a very efficient super chat. He got it in for under $2. Very impressive, sir.
Good job.
He says, want sequels to the Batman to be mysteries also?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's no reason you couldn't do different flavors of Batman movies in that same universe, but I would like them all to be detective stories in some way or another. And I think at least the next one, DJ, needs to be a detective story so that Batman can maybe actually solve a case on his own without needing the Riddler to give him clues to get there, and so that it doesn't feel like he's just being strung along by a supervillain, because it works fine for an early outing like that, and I don't agree with people that think that Batman's incompetent or not heroic enough or something in that movie, because he's obviously a really flawed character that has to kind of learn how to be a hero and how to be more than just a vigilante in the first place, but I think he's got to redeem himself in not just the hero department, but also the detective department. And I think folks that had that complaint might not feel as badly about that if we get an adventure where that happens. So at the very least, the next one should also be a mystery, I would think.
Yeah. I would love that if they did that. Maniac Madness 11, $5. What do you think had the better long-term character arc through multiple movies? MCU Tony Stark or Fox's Wolverine?
Tony Stark, definitely. That's really easy to answer. Partly because, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Iron Man 2, but I don't think the problem is where his character arc is in that. It's a lot more issues with villain motivation and stuff like that. My big complaint with Iron Man 2 was always, well, your villain got what he wanted, but he kept going. Just never understood that. But I don't think the problem is is where Tony is in his character arc, and it does seem to track fine. But with X-Men, I mean, you basically get a 3-movie arc, and X3 is not good, and I don't know that there's as clear of a full-on character arc between the movies with Wolverine as there is with Iron Man. And then we take a long step back and we get a like nearly uncanonical or at least somewhat written out of continuity, and nobody likes to count it, movie with X-Men Origins, which you don't have at all, anything like that with Iron Man. There's not any part of that where we wish we could retcon it. And then you finally get the Wolverine, which is good, but is a really good kind of standalone character thing for him. And the same thing with Logan. They are building, especially Logan, to some degree on his character arcs in X-Men and X2. But I feel like, especially because X-Men 1 is a setup film, I feel like with those first two movies,
the character in X-Men 1, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with those two movies, you've got a pretty clear arc all the way through with that character, but he's basically made his peace with stuff by the end of X2. Like, he doesn't know everything still about his past, but he doesn't really need to, and he's got, like, a big chunk of it, and he's kind of decided where his loyalties are going to be from then on. Like, Tony Stark needs, from his first movie all the way up, for his, and we've talked about this before, I think just last week even, to constantly have his narcissism challenged, and to constantly learn more about his heart, as it were, and he's got to make a lot of mistakes to keep growing and changing as a person, and he's never the same character from movie to movie, even though in some ways he is, because he never fully loses his arrogance and such. And it kind of helps that those movies are more consistent in the continuity, and that there's not a lot of retconning, and that, especially with his character, which I always felt really tracked, and that it got so many movies. So, like, comparing them is hard because MCU just got more space to do more stuff with that character. Wolverine did get his own trilogy, but it's not really a trilogy. And, I mean, I say trilogy. He got 3 movies that were just Wolverine movies and not X-Men movies. One of them also had X-Men in the title. But he had, a few movies called X-Men, and then 3 movies called Wolverine. And Iron Man is in all these other movies. Like, he's in Iron Man movies, but he's also in all the Avenger movies, and he's in Captain America Civil War, which should be an X-Men movie. I mean, sorry, which should be an Avengers movie. So I don't know. It's pretty easy to say. It's Tony Stark.
I was very ready for you to explain how Civil War should be an X-Men movie. I was like, wow, that's a hot take. Tell me more.
I'm going to get you there. You're going to believe me. Okay, DJ, let's take a quick couple-minute break.
Absolutely.
And guys, feel free to keep putting some questions in, and we'll be right back in just 2 to 3 minutes.
All right, bye.
And we're back. DJ, the word I was looking for earlier that I couldn't think of when we were talking about the idea of, or the complaint that, what's next? Strippers at Disneyland. It's a false equivalency. That's what it is. I forgot to mention earlier that we are doing After Dark tonight, Brandon and I, and Austin, and possibly Dan Torrey. So if you are not currently a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/geekvolution. Just the $2 tier gets you access to that. We're going to answer some questions from the Patreon community and talk about stuff we don't usually talk about here on the channel, and bring some of our own topics as well. Okay, DJ, what else do you see, sir?
I see a super chat from Super Billy, who gives us the superest of super chats. Do you trust that SNW will return to classic Trek?
Hubba, hubba, hubba. Money, money, money. Who do you trust? No, I don't. I don't trust that. And if it ever happened, I mean, there's a million things that would have to change, obviously. First of all, let me say, I was a lot more hopeful about this a few years ago, or I guess even a couple years ago, when we got the merger back together with CBS and Paramount. Because part of what made the whole J.J. Abrams thing happen in the first place was that you had Star Trek split weirdly between two different companies, and one had to be a certain percentage different than the original Star Trek and the prime continuity. And so apparently, allegedly, it was somewhat of a forced reboot. And I don't know how true exactly that is, but it tracks that would have been one of the motivations for going the way they went with that. And anyway, still kind of stuck with that when New Trek starts with Discovery. And so you have to sort of half-soft reboot while at the same time pretending like you're still in continuity and everything counts. It was always really weird and awkward, and didn't help that the people behind it clearly didn't understand or appreciate the material and wanted to make something that wasn't Star Trek but stuck with that property, with that IP. And it didn't start with the right motivations in mind in the first place, because it wasn't about hey, let's do something cool with this property. It was, here's the only thing we own that anybody that this many people know about. How can we exploit it in order to get people to pay for a streaming service? And so fast forward to now, and the mentality is still there for some reason, regardless of the fact that Paramount and CBS are back together, the same company again. And I really thought things might change when the head of Paramount had to step, or the head of CBS had to step down. And I forget her name, but the lady that took over, it's been a while since I've looked into this stuff because I'm so disenfranchised with it, I just don't even want to know anymore. But the lady that took over did seem a lot more enthusiastic about Star Trek and was not happy with where things were going. And yet, for some reason, went on record to say that, was like, don't worry, things will change. And then Kurtzman got an extended 3-year contract, and they kept announcing shows in this Kurtzman-verse. And we're so inundated with stuff that doesn't fit in continuity, that is just anti the spirit of the world and the ideas and stuff, that even if the right people ever took it back over, who's to say that they would feel the same way I do about it, that none of this stuff should count, that none of it fits in the canon? How much of it are you going to be stuck with? Are you going to be stuck with all of it? So, I mean, maybe someday, the best I can hope for is that at some point we'll get into a Mandalorian situation where, and I mean, this depends on what Star Wars people you ask, I guess, but I'm in the camp of, we've broke Star Wars. There's no way forward, really, without scrapping at least Rise of Skywalker, if not Last Jedi, and just the whole Disney thing in general. And, I mean, some things that I liked when they started that would be, okay. But, I mean, if you could roll time backwards and bring back the old EU, I think that's what a lot of Star Wars fans would want. And so, but there is some Star Wars stuff coming out now that I think is of decent to pretty good quality and telling stories that are fun and engaging and feels like the real spirit of Star Wars. The best I could ever hope for with Star Trek is that we have that, where, it's still screwed as far as the continuity goes. Like, it will always be broken, but maybe there's still, like, if you tell a good story, I'm not going to care as much. You know, you have characters that seem like real people, and it's in the actual spirit of Star Trek, and it feels like a Star Trek thing. I can at least enjoy in the same way that I could have enjoyed Discovery as a other thing that isn't really Star Trek, but still pretty good dystopian science fiction. Yeah, wasn't that. Unfortunate that it wasn't that. If it couldn't actually be Star Trek and feel like it fits in that world. But the best I could ever hope for is somebody takes over, I think, is somebody that takes over that is stuck with this continuity but knows how to tell a good story. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll get lucky at some point, and past Kurtzman, somebody will go, yeah, everything that was made, from Discovery onward cannot count. It doesn't work. We can't, like, it broke the universe. And I don't trust that'll ever happen.
All right, Bob the Hun, $5. Have you heard of parasocial relationships? It's a thing where people like friends with people they don't know, specifically YouTubers. Thoughts?
I'm not sure what that is.
Sorry. Parasocial relationships. It's a thing where people feel like friends with people that they don't know, specifically YouTubers.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't know that had a name now. But yes, this is a phenomenon that's been going on for a long time, and that obviously I have experienced some as well. And it's sticky, right? Because these days we have something that feels more akin to real relationships with celebrities at large, or with, like, people in the public eye at large. You can send a very famous person, DJ, a tweet and potentially get a message back. And when that happens, you have, in the dictionary definition, formed a relationship. Once again, just like not having a platform to put out some kind of a variety show when I was a kid, I also couldn't have imagined this. Like, the closest you could get is you send an actor you like a letter and hope that maybe you get a letter back, which didn't happen a lot. But even if you did, it's not public. Nobody else would know about it. I think the key here is public, right? Is that if you have that relationship with a person, even if you only got a message back one time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten messages from people or emails from people that have gone, I messaged this creator in comics that you like, and I got a message back. How cool, how big of a deal is that? Or like this actor retweeted a thing I said. Even that makes people feel like they have a relationship with a famous person, with a celebrity. And I say it's sticky because in dictionary definition, yeah, you end up forming a relationship in that you had in the same way that you have a relationship with somebody that you have to like at a stoplight decide, or a stop sign, a four-way, who's gonna go first, right? Like, you have this very limited few second relationship with another person, and then you move on and you get on with your lives, which is most of what relationships with celebrities are like. And I'm not saying that obviously everybody that has a community on YouTube should be considered a celebrity. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just saying that it's the same sort of thing where you start interact, but even more so with a lot of YouTube people. And this is the point I'm trying to make, is that you get more close-knit and even intimate relationships with people that you don't really know in real life, or IRL, with people on YouTube, because people like me will create these communities, and we'll get into, especially Discord, I think, has really pushed this idea to the nines, where you might talk to somebody a lot that you watched online for a long time that was just a content creator or an influencer to you, and now you feel like you have a relationship with, and it is very murky territory. It's a real gray area of how much of that counts as a real friendship with a person, and how much of it is a little closer to just the celebrity that you tweeted back and forth with a couple of times, because somebody might talk to you all the time that makes content that you listen to and enjoy, but what is their motivation for doing that? I mean, is it because they feel like they have an actual friendship with you, or is it to stay in touch with the people that are most active in their community so that they hang on to you and you keep watching, right? Like there's a they have a vested interest in keeping you interested. And so so it can be really sticky, like which of those can, and it's very, very case by case. I will say for myself as a content creator, with Discords and with comment sections that I sometimes interact with, and with a Patreon, with patrons that I interact with, that I won't name any names, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but some folks that I have talked to back and forth, I would consider internet acquaintances. I would consider cool people that I really appreciate that they engage with me and hang out and watch me, but I wouldn't call them close friends or even necessarily friends. There are other people that I have met through Patreon, the Discord, going back to Who Reviews the Reviewers, etc., that I have put together real strong bonds with, that I consider actual real friends. And that, no, I don't necessarily feel like I have to go to them in real life before it counts as a friendship. I know that there are some people that think that if you never meet a person, physical flesh and blood, it doesn't count. And I think it's kind of ridiculous to go, I finally went and saw DJ and had coffee with him for an hour and a half, and now we're friends, but we weren't before. That's kind of preposterous. I have told DJ things about my personal life that I wouldn't necessarily tell you, just person watching right now. He and I are close friends. Dan and I are close friends. Dan's one of my very, very best friends. Eric and I were friends before he lived with me for 4 years. But going the other way,
now they're not, because he lived with them for 4 years.
Yeah. Forget that guy. Honestly, I forgot he even existed until it just came to my brain just now. I'm kidding. But going the other way, somebody might think of me as a friend because we have interacted on the internet that I don't think of as a friend. And that can be a little sticky and a little murky, and I always feel weird about that kind of thing. Because obviously I never want to lead a person on or anything. But I think this happens in real life too. You know what I mean? Where, like, you really like a person, but they just sort of tolerate you, and in your mind they're friends, but in the other person's mind, you're just an acquaintance that they put up with, So, I mean, it also happens in real life. But that is definitely, and I think it makes a lot of sense that it's a big enough phenomenon now that somebody made up a word for it that is catching on. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that everybody that does what I do is gonna have.
Well, and everything you just said was fascinating. I really enjoyed that. But I think what he means what parasocial relationships means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just go on a 10-minute tirade and then I totally misunderstood the question?
No, it's very connected. It's very connected. But what I think that specifically means is the psychological thing where you feel like you're friends with a YouTuber that you've had no contact with.
I took that in the interaction direction, and I didn't mean for that to be the main thing I focused on. Yeah. But yes, you're right. That happens too, where it's like you.
I absolutely have had that before.
Because I've had it too. And I don't
talking directly to you.
Yes.
And it feels like there's a YouTube channel that I follow, or YouTuber.
In a weird way, YouTube is the Mr. Rogers thing done by everybody.
Yeah.
Because he's talking directly to you like you're the only person there in the room.
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel I follow. It's Good Mythical Morning, but it's the main two guys are Rhett and Link, and they do videos Monday through Friday every single day, which I watch. They're just like 10-minute like good morning videos, and I listen to those, and then I also listen to their podcasts that they do every Sunday, where they talk for like over an hour. And I'm like so inundated with talking to those guys that I feel like I had the same thing I had with you and Vince back in the day, where I was like, God, if I could just talk to these guys. It's like I would have so many things, because when you and Vince would have conversations, and it feels like I'm a part of the conversation. You just can't hear me, and it's like, but now I can, and now I talk to Cap. That's the most still surreal to me that I actually became friends with you after listening to you for almost 10 years. But yeah, it's really, I definitely have that where it's like, man, if I could just meet this guy in person, we would have so much to talk about, but he doesn't even know who I am, and it's very strange.
Well, and isn't it frustrating too when you wish that you could just jump in and stop me when I'm not making any kind of sense? Or when, like, I'm going down a rabbit hole and you're like, God, if only I was there, I wouldn't have to listen to this for the next 20 minutes because you know what the actual question was about.
It's a little bit of a different thing, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
No, I have had that with podcasts to the degree that I use my I use the community and the platform that I have, DJ, when I can, to mitigate that for myself. So I will try to actually reach out and become friends with people that I feel like I'm friends with already. We're all like, what I'll do is I'll invite people to the Captain Logan show. Because, like, I had this with the Genesis Gems guys, who are really good friends of mine now. We talk all the time. And I've had this with the Super Mercado brothers, and I had one of them on the show once, talking about video game music. And I listen to a lot of video game podcasts. And in both cases, it was me listening to them for a good long time. I mean, Genesis Gems, I listened to it for like a year before I thought to reach out to them. But I would be, cleaning the house or playing video games or something, and I would have them on in a headset. And you'd learn, a lot of it is, you'd learn so much personal information about them that you feel like you're friends, even though, and it isn't like the diluted, I don't understand reality from fiction thing, where like you actually literally expect that you could call them up at home and they would answer you. It's that you have to remind yourself, like you said, oh yeah, they don't know who I am. And that's weird, because who else do you know, or who else can you think of, besides internet personalities that you know all this personal stuff? You know how many kids they have, you know if they're married, you know if they've gotten divorced, you know what town they grew up in, you know, in the case of Nick from the Genesis Gems, that he is obsessed with chili dogs with sauce. There's or hot dogs with sauce. You know that Aaron on that show one time accidentally yelled at his kids on mic because he forgot to mute his mic, and go to bed or something became like this almost meme on that show. It wasn't go to bed. What was it? He yelled something, and they just repeated it every episode after that. It was really funny. But these sorts of things that feel like the kinds of things that only come up with friends that you hang out with all night and have a drink with, and they come up when you spend too many hours with them.
Yeah, when we first started being friends, this was we're much closer now. But when we very first started being friends, I knew so much about you, and I wouldn't even think about it like that. I would just bring it up in conversation, like stuff about your wife or like stuff from your past, and I would bring it up as if you had told me, but when you were saying it, you were talking to the whole audience. You weren't just talking to me, but I had all this stuff that I just remembered that you had mentioned. It's like, and you're like, oh wow, and I didn't know you knew that. Now we're pretty caught up, but when we first started, it was a little awkward.
Oh, and just the amount of time you have to spend with a person that's watched you for a long time, but you don't know anything about them before you lose the awkwardness of that. It's a lot of hours, because people will have me at a disadvantage. Where and you might say that like I sound conceited when I say this, but like, isn't it cool that like all these people know all this stuff about me because like I'm talking all the time, and I'm such an open book. I get sometimes maybe a little bit more personal than some other people would be comfortable with. I have a line, certainly, that I'm careful not to cross. And somebody mentioned that I cross it a lot more on After Dark. I absolutely do. It's one of the perks that you get for being a patron is I will just drink a couple of beers and go off.
You need to add that to the $2 tier. You also get a parasocial relationship with me, Captain Logan.
I should use that. But so it might sound a little bit conceited, where I sound like, look at me, I'm a celebrity, and all these people know all this stuff about me, and isn't it cool that like they care about these random little tidbits in my life that you wouldn't think anybody would ever care about. But the drawback is when people know too much about you and you actually start developing a real relationship with them. You can't tell them anything because they know too much about you, and then you feel like you're repeating yourself. So like, that happened with DJ, that happened, I think even with, I don't know, Eric and I guess both watched each other's stuff, so we didn't have that as much. But I've had this with Dan, other folks that started watching it, Connor definitely, where you'll start having a conversation and you'll start to tell a story. And they'll be like,
grandpa that's told the story.
I'm aware of that. But you're like, I don't remember telling you that. Because I didn't tell you that. I told the world that.
Oh, I'm part of the world, baby. Yeah, it's weird. It's very strange. That's a great question.
That is a great question. Okay.
And we are actually qualified to answer that question.
Half an hour left on the show. Yeah, and I mean, I put that in my own lens, of course, because this is a thing that I do. But I also have had that, like I said, myself with some other influencers. So yeah, half an hour left if we go to a full 2 hours, and then we'll take a 10-15 minute break, and I'll come back. DJ's got better things to do tonight, but I'll come back for After Dark with some other magnanimous folks that you know, and we'll see how many more questions we can get knocked out. DJ, how many super chats do we have left, sir?
Only 2 at the moment.
Okay, sweet.
Technically 3, but 1 is just a correction for his other one. Actually, that one I already read from Tom was just the correction about the commercial video. So we're gonna go to
so we got one right now.
$5. I lament the deficit of diversity of thought in mainstream pop culture / entertainment. Even indies seldom go against the grain ideologically. Thoughts?
Okay, I'm sorry. Real quick, I'm gonna have you read that again. Chewbacca's Lover says, just going back to what we were just talking about, you talked about family or romantic relationship stuff that no other YouTuber would bring up. In my defense, you do this for 13 years and you just start looking for things that you haven't said yet. How do I keep it interesting? I mean, I guess I gotta get slightly more personal. I don't know what other stories I can tell that I haven't told 1,000 times.
That's the only reason Cap got tattoos, just so we could have something else to talk about.
It eats up some time. But I also am a lot more comfortable with a lot of you guys than I might have been early on. I mean, there's that to mention, too, is that a lot of our community has been here a good long time. And so I also have... This should probably be tacked on too, DJ. I'm in a unique situation in that I think about you guys collectively as a group of friends, even if individually I don't know each of you really personally, and I wouldn't necessarily on a one-on-one think to get as deep and philosophical and personal as I might with DJ. But with the whole group, it's like that's an entity. And that's a familiar face that I've known for years and years. I mean, I think you do in a really weird way, like almost, this might sound like a bizarre thing to say, you almost like personify or anthropomorphize the community that watches you, especially if they've been around for a good long time, as like a single entity, as a person, almost like it has a phase.
Yeah, it's like that's when we ever make the Geekvolution movie. It's gonna be like the end of Wreck-It Ralph, where all the Ralphs like combined into one giant monster thing. It's gonna be all the subscribers like come together and form a giant human, the subscriber.
And see, I hesitate saying it like that because I never want to.
Wreck-It Ralph 2, that was. Sorry.
I never want people. Yeah, and by the way, I like that movie, and a lot of people don't. But I saw it one time. Maybe if I saw it again, I wouldn't appreciate it as much. But I don't know. It resonated with me on a first viewing. But I have never wanted folks to feel like I'm just talking at them. I've always wanted this to be as much of a community, of a conversation as possible, and I like to start conversations but never finish them, at least as far as videos where you're just commenting on the comments. Obviously, if I'm talking to you live like this, it can be a lot more of a back and forth, but I've never thought about this as I'm making content. I mean, Superhero Rewind more so, because those were more like video essays. Remember, when I started, DJ, back in my day, I would put out Superhero Rewinds, and it was more of a novelty to have videos like that, and they weren't called video essays yet. That wasn't even a term. It was just, you wrote a review, and it was scripted, and you put it out there, and it's like, wow, this reads like a college paper. And now everybody and his dog is writing college papers on YouTube about superhero movies and everything else under the sun. But besides scripted stuff, when I would do conversational videos, I never thought about it like I'm talking at an audience. I'll use the word audience sometimes, but that's sometimes just because there's not another word that really applies. But I mean, I like community a lot better. It's like, yeah, I started this thing and you guys are listening to me, and it's kind of one-sided because you're not all here also talking back at me in audio form, and like, yeah, my name's in the title. But yeah, I've never thought about it as much like that.
All right, so Super Billy's question was...
Which I am not the original video essayist. There were plenty of people that were also doing it back then. It just wasn't anything like... It didn't blow up like it has now, and nobody called them video essays yet.
Yeah. All right, you ready to tackle this?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about
big
that.
One? Super Billy says he laments the deficit of diversity of thought in mainstream pop culture / entertainment.
Yeah.
Even indies seldom go against the grain ideologically. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into this because I don't want to get too political, but also I'm a broken record, and I'll say the same thing I've said 100 times on this, which is we do have too much preaching to the choir, and there is too much fear of speaking your mind, and I do think that there is, and look, the physical diversity thing is good, and I'm glad that we've gotten as far with that as we have, of course, but there is an emphasis on that and not enough of an emphasis on diversity of ideas right now. And I do agree with that. And that's all I want to say about that. But I do agree with that sentiment.
And then he put in a $2 super chat just to say, sorry for the misplaced question mark. Here's my penance. It's okay. You didn't have to do that.
I think we understood that it was a question.
But yeah, let's jump back to some pre-writtens. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Blue Dragon 5 says he misses Superhero Rewind, the official ones, not the live ones. Yeah, I mean, me too. I just can't do it right now. If that was, and make them what they were and what I want them to be, it's just too many hours out of my week. And so I wouldn't be doing anything but that, and I wouldn't be able to get out more than 1 or 2 a month, if that. Even that would be pushing it. And I would have to scrap all the other content I'm doing. That's how difficult, or how time-consuming, I should say, dealing with twins and 3 other kids is. My evening, besides like tonight, where I actually can start at 7 o'clock, usually my evening starts at 10 p.m. and I'll get maybe 2 or 3 hours to work. And so that's how I can keep talking about old superhero movies. And I'm doing that because I don't know how long it's going to be before I'm able to do the scripted thing the way I would want to do the scripted thing. And so, yes, that show is very, what's the word I'm looking for? I've been a little bit ambiguous about, like, do these count as actual superhero rewinds? Like, no, they don't. It's not the same thing, and I realize that. At the same time, I'm still scoring them, and I'm still ranking them, and I'm doing as much, like, actual story and character analysis as possible, because that's where I live and that's what I want to do with those movies. But I'm doing all of that in case I don't get a chance to actually write about those movies. I'm pushing 40, guys, and I've got a lot going on. And the idea with that was always to try to review every superhero movie that's ever been made. And if I can ever get anything like close to that goal, at the very least I'll be able to say I reviewed them, even if they weren't scripted. So, like, I would like to do the more polished thing with all of them, but that is getting more and more unrealistic, I think, because just too many of these things come out.
Yeah. All right. Well,
so yeah, anyway,
well, we'll go back to some pre-writtens for a bit, if you don't mind.
Yep, let's do it.
Daniel Davis, most frustrating board game experience as a kid for you? I remember getting upset about losing memory. I don't know. Is he just saying, like?
Would you read that one more time?
Most frustrating board game experiences as a kid.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if I can think of any specific instances. I will say, without naming names, there are certain family members that I always preferred playing board games with over other family members.
I'm frustrated now that my 3-year-old already beats me at matching games. I had
my 3-year-old is also really good at matching games.
I had a pretty much a photographic memory when I was a kid, and now it's going away as I'm getting older, which I'm very not happy about. But my son already has it. Like, he never misses a match, and if he goes first, he wins. Like, it's
that's
insane.
Amazing.
He's so smart. It's frustrating. He also seems to beat me at Candyland every time, which is completely random. I don't know how he does that.
Yeah, there's no skill set in Candyland.
No.
You can't make a strategy out of Candyland.
Unless he's sneaking in and, like, strategizing the cards.
You draw your colors, and that's where you move.
Yeah. But hey, sorry, we didn't really have a good answer for that, Daniel Davis. But Daniel Davis
I will say real quick,
okay.
I don't have a specific instance, but just broadly, my least favorite thing about playing video games, playing board games when I was a kid, was a new game and having to listen to somebody else read the instructions. I always hated that.
Yeah. Man, Duo, or Dos. there's a new like Uno-esque game
Yeah.
that's like DOS. That's
Jason
like,
got it, but I've not played it.
it's way more complicated. I
Is
played
it?
it with my brother. I got it for him for Christmas, and we figured it out. But it was like, holy,
I
we had
don't
to
know,
watch
two
a
is
YouTube
more than
video.
one, man.
There's so many more rules. It was intense, very intense. But yeah, Daniel Davis also says, "Did you see the trailer for Miss Marvel yet? It actually looks kind of interesting."
I did. I only looked at it once, and I wasn't real impressed with it. It didn't look like a thing that just was for me. But then it's nice that they're making things for different audiences potentially, and that they're not too worried about everything being fully accessible. And you know what I mean? So like, it felt like in some ways, a real typical kind of teen primetime drama. It felt like a thing that belonged on Freeform.
Oh, there you go. We just talked about that earlier.
Yeah, like I was a little bit surprised to see something in some ways as mainstream and in some ways not as mainstream as that. It sort of felt like the direction the Spider-Man movies might have gone, the kind of Breakfast Clubby thing, if those shows and mixed with kind of some, I guess, like old school CW sensibilities. It seemed like a thing that where Spider-Man might have gone that way if it was only aimed at like 15-year-olds, and if it didn't think that adults were watching. And this looks like a show that's like, this isn't for adults. This is for teenagers, and I just wonder if they'll be there for it. That was like, are teen girls gonna watch that show? Because it seems like it's made for them.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I know a lot of teen girls are into the MCU. I don't know a lot of teen. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know a lot of teen girls.
You know a lot of teenage girls, do you, DJ?
No.
I don't even know how that happens.
No, in an alternate universe, it would have been really cool is if they had, like the Defenders saga, where those are all like a connected little universe. If they had like a high school MCU universe, like Spider-Man, Human Torch, Miss Marvel, like that kind of, like for a different audience, that would have been cool. If that was like the Disney Plus thing. But I mean, obviously Spider-Man's huge and he's not going to be on TV, but I don't know, that thought came to me when you brought that up. I haven't watched the trailer yet, but I am just in general more interested in the new characters like Hawkeye and Moon Knight and Miss Marvel than the movie characters that I don't think are really doing well on the shows.
Yeah, I don't know about the effects with her powers and stuff. People are complaining that they've changed her powers some. I haven't read any of that character, so I don't know enough. I know she's got stretchy powers. That's about all I know.
Yeah,
I guess she still stretches, but there's like a weird energy thing with it now. And
oh, interesting.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just feel like they got to make it more cool. Like, Mr. Fantastic is cool, but I think it's because he's on a team with like other kinds of powers. I don't know. Just stretchy man. If they think, I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have to spice it up a little bit. I don't know. But we got one from AMC Comics. Oh, this is interesting. I did see this. Have you seen the concept art that's been released of the Batsuit and Deathstroke suit for the canceled Affleck version of the Batman film?
I'm sorry. I was reading comments about what we were just talking about. Go ahead and read that again, would you?
Sure.
I don't mean to make you do it every time.
Have you seen the concept art that's been released of the Batsuit and the Deathstroke suit for the canceled Affleck version of the Batman?
No, I have not seen that.
I saw the
know
concept artist. This always happens where a concept artist will work on a film that doesn't come out, and then like whenever their contract's up, they're allowed to post on their Instagrams. And he posted. I saw the Batsuit. I didn't see the Deathstroke suit. Some of his Batsuit clearly was carried over into the actual one we got in the Batman. It has like the same black bat.
Interesting.
And it's still the darker gray.
Does it?
It looks cool. It's bigger, obviously, because it's Affleck, and it's like more. It's like it looks like kind of like that Arkham kind of padding, like metal suit stuff that kind of is in the Batman. It's just a little bit different. It's interesting. I liked it. But yeah, did you want to talk about anything they were talking about the Disney Plus thing, or
some people just complaining that they're kind of pushing the hipster Zoomer crowd, but like they're gonna. I mean, I have respect for them, I suppose. Like going after different demographics with different things. I mean, that's maybe not the right way to put that, because they could be really pandery about it, certainly. But I just think that it's nice if we're making things that aren't necessarily all for everybody, is what I'm saying. Like, it's fine to make a teen superhero drama that's much more for teenagers, and like you hope that it's not for just for teenagers in the same way that Twilight was just for teenagers. You know, like you don't want it to be insulting. You don't want it to like try to make kids think that like certain kinds of really crappy writing is like really engaging writing, and you know, really irresponsible kinds of writing. But hopefully that's not what this is doing. I will say, and maybe this will get me in trouble with some people, I will say that I hope it isn't pandery about the and doesn't feel real forced in the diversity department. And that's not me saying like oh, I don't care because it's an Indian girl. No, of course, like it's great that we've got a lot of people of all kinds of different sizes and shapes and colors as superheroes now. That's great. What I don't want, of course, is for a thing to feel like it's just hinging on that, and now it doesn't have to tell a good story. Now the character doesn't have to be, you know, intriguing and engaging and relatable in any way. Where it's like she is great because she's you know, of a minority. Like, I hope that we're not moving in that direction, because some of the CW superhero shows had that problem, and I really hope that they're really careful and they don't step into that kind of hole. That would be a mistake. There's a line in the trailer where she's lamenting that she doesn't look like other superheroes, which could be fine. I just hope that it doesn't seem really pushy about that, or get like silly about it in a way that doesn't make sense, because it's like the line was something like you know, it's really hard. I'm not gonna get this exactly right, but it was something about it being hard, like now being a like female brown superhero, and we haven't had those yet. And I'm thinking like, but it's a little bit different than feeling like there wasn't a part for you in the world because we didn't cast people that look like you in movies, or where we wouldn't let people like you have particular jobs, or we didn't pay you as well as other people. Like, in the... DJ, do you agree with this? In the continuity of that world, the reason that there were mostly white male superheroes is because that's what we had in the comics, and they weren't all that concerned about doing the diversity thing early on. It isn't like... Nobody will hire a non-white superhero. Like an Indian girl can't be well, she just didn't get powers. Like I don't see anybody in that universe like with superpowers not being allowed to be a superhero because they're not a white person.
Yeah, but you can't. That can't be the real reason in universe, though, because
I'm just saying I hope it isn't, because that's what the line sort of sounded like, and I didn't know what the context of the line was. I'm just saying that took me out a little bit, where I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure why you're saying that, except for the trailer fodder of making a big deal out of it's a race we haven't done yet.
Yeah, I could see if that line is more about
and that's why I'm not coming out and going, how dare they, and this is terrible. And like, I don't know what the context of it is, but it did seem like potentially weird. Like I don't know what they're doing with it.
Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. If that line is more about the reaction to her becoming a superhero, then I could see that working better. But
yeah, if that's what it is. And I'm not saying that you can't deal with racial politics in that show if you do it in a real mature way, but I didn't think we dealt with racial politics in a very mature way in Falcon Winter Soldier. And if that show hadn't come out already, I don't know that I would even be thinking that much about this. But I'm just a little bit concerned about the direction we're taking this stuff. Like, it needs to be handled, Brian.
Yeah, and I just...
I'm not saying don't deal with it.
No, yeah, definitely.
I'm saying don't deal with it in a cynical corporate way where you're just saying what you think people want to hear. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I just haven't seen Falcon Winter Soldier, but yeah, I've heard a lot of people say it's not. They kind of dropped the ball. So, but I'm not going into it with that because I just haven't seen that.
Yeah, sure.
Coming off Hawkeye, where that stuff didn't get in the way at all, it wasn't even mentioned that she was a female Hawkeye, which was really cool.
Mutale, it's not the brown girls from New Jersey that saved the world. I think that's maybe the line. And I mean, yeah, that's true, but I'm just not sure what she's saying about that. Is it just like, I won't be accepted because I don't look like everybody else? Because like, Captain America's a black guy right now. Like in universe. I don't know.
Yeah. And Spider and everyone and Electro thinks that Spider-Man was a black kid.
Might be a black guy, yeah.
Well, not now because he's.
It's or that in the moment maybe he was. Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's a question I have.
Yeah, we'll just see how it's handled. I think I might check that one out. Like I said, I'm more interested in the new stuff just because we haven't been getting new characters in the MCU in a long time. So that's just where I'm at. It's interesting to me. But where are we? What do we have? Do we have time for any more?
Sure. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left.
All right. Let's go back to the very beginning. Mutale says, Cap and DJ, what actors would you cast to play you guys in a Geekvolution biopic? What would actors cast to play you guys in Geekvolution biopic have to do to get you guys right? Okay, so good. Not a casting question. Great, because we're terrible at those.
Yeah, and we've been asked that before. So what was the question exactly? So so we don't have to pick an actor.
No. What would actors cast as you have to do to get you guys right?
Oh,
what kind of research?
Yeah, well, they would have to watch ridiculous amounts of Star Trek for me, or already have kind of done that. I don't know. I think it would be hard to play me and not already like some of the things I like, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They'd have to go through like a traumatic 2-year experience of Spawn.
Mm-hmm. You'd have to practice talking with your hands a lot.
That's pretty good. Your son does. Yeah, your son's already doing it.
He's already got that, yeah.
That's interesting. They'd have to have 5 kids, adopt 5 children.
No, I don't mean they have to live exactly the same life I live. But I don't know if you could pretend, how easy it would be to pretend to be enthusiastic about some of the weird things I get enthusiastic about. I get excited about.
They'd have to sit in the makeup chair for 5 hours to get all of your tattoos.
Oh, my tattoos at this point. That is secretly the reason I'm getting them. So that if anybody ever plays me in a biopic, they have massive amounts of chair time they have to deal with for makeup.
Yeah, Seth Rogen has to get his biggest makeup job he's ever got in a movie.
Okay, how about 1 or 2 more, DJ?
All right. And feel free to pop some more in the chat, guys. These are just from the beginning of the show, and they're mostly from Daniel Davis and Mutale. So
okay.
If you've got any, let me know. Daniel Davis says, if you could suddenly wake up in an alternate universe, what would you like to see happen?
Oh, I don't know.
That's the scariest thing. I'm very happy with my life, and I don't want to trade anything for. I can't think of anything that I would like to have that I would risk trading what I do have for.
I mean, the cynical answer for me, but like I wouldn't be able to do what I do for a living anymore, is I wake up in another reality and there is no internet. Because in some ways, I think, I don't know, it's such a... Because I talked earlier about how wonderful having a platform is, but at the same time, like, for all the things that the internet has given us to make our lives not just easier, but also in a lot of ways really better, it's also really messed us up socially. And sometimes I think that, like, I'd love to see what the world, starting from, like, I don't know, 0405, would look like by this year, by 2022, if we hadn't had the social media boom that we had.
If you could just hop over to another universe just to see what a technologically stunted universe would be like that never got the internet.
Yeah.
In 2022.
In what ways would it be better, and in what ways would it?
But you couldn't tell because you wouldn't have the internet to see what the world is like.
Sure.
You have to talk to people, a lot of people, to see what everybody's like.
That's true. Now, at the same time, if that universe also had the pandemic, they're in trouble. Because without the technology, how are people continuing to survive and keep businesses open and stuff? I've had this thought a lot, that, like, if this happened in 1995, the world shuts down.
Yeah, because I mean, people
the technology kept us going as a society.
Like me and you were able to work through the whole thing thanks to. I mean, I had Zoom calls, or I could just talk to work, and nothing changed for you.
People tried to go to school on the internet, which worked to varying degrees of success. But like, you had all these people that were able to work from home that couldn't have 15 years ago, and were able to keep their jobs. Like, you'd have so many massive layoffs. I mean, I think, is this going too far, or do you guys agree with this? I think if COVID happens in, I picked this year kind of at random, but if COVID happens in 1995, you have a state of emergency by day 7.
Wow. Speaking of a state of emergency, Ryder just put in the chat, Riverdale got around to alternate universes, by the way, in season 6. What?
Of course it did. All the other comic book shows were doing it.
What? That's hilarious. Wow. Thanks, Ryder. Fun fact of the day. We got one in the chat just popped up from Bob the Hun. Guys, do you think that the Batman does anything that would be too far for Nolan Batman? I say no.
As far as seeming too unrealistic or heightened or anything like that, like I said when we reviewed that, DJ, it certainly feels just overall, in general, more comic booky and more stylized than those did. But any like one specific thing, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think you could have shot the Nolan movies in a more stylized visual way.
It's flavor over anything.
The same level of realism, yeah. I don't know. It is more stylistic, like where Batman will just like slowly walk serial killer style down the hall, and the people have to wait till he gets there because it's this big dramatic scene. That is more comic booky than, like, I don't think Nolan would have done something like that. Not that that's like unrealistic, like that doesn't break the movie for me, but it is like it's more atmospheric and the score.
Yeah, could Nolan's Batman just drive around the city in a Batmobile?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, that's a great question.
Oh, geez. Oh, Connor just popped in. Hey, Connor.
Oh, hi, Connor. We're about to leave, but thanks for showing up for 5 seconds.
John Ty. Wow, this is a weird one to end on if this ends up being the last one. Thoughts on fans going to YouTubers' houses uninvited? Well, that's not cool.
Well, see, they probably just think, DJ, that like they're really good friends.
No, yeah, it's like
that just going over to hang out at the friend's house.
It's like that episode of Friends with the crazy fan that just thinks Joey Tribbiani's character is a real person.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the swatting thing has been something of an epidemic. I haven't heard about this happening as much, and I wonder how common that is.
Well, that's always been a thing in Hollywood, right? Like, people just like show up in Beverly Hills at your house. They find out, they look up where you live, and they just go show up at your house and like.
What do they expect to happen? Like, you're just gonna invite them in for tea?
I recently
I will say this. I am so small potatoes that if, well, and I say that, I don't know that I would be any different if I was like a big channel either, but if somebody just happened, unless it happened all the time, you know what I mean? Like, if nobody do this, but if only one person like ever, because I have met some of our community that I wasn't like real close with or talk to all the time in person. Like, that's happened a few times. I've had people like message me like, I'm gonna be in the area, would you mind if I stopped by, or could we go someplace and maybe get a coffee or something. And I have done that a few times, and I've never had a bad experience with it. But if somebody just suddenly uninvited showed up to my house and was like, hey, I know this is weird, but I'm one of your subscribers, and I wanted to know if you would just talk to me for a while. I would just kind of feel them out a little bit and see how weird they seem to be, and if they were, seemed pretty well adjusted and cool, I'd probably say, like, you maybe should have called first, but like, I think I would probably, I don't know that I would just immediately turn. I guess it would depend on what I was in the middle of or whatever, but I mean, yeah, it would be weird. Nobody do that. Like, it would be weird, but maybe I'm just too nice. I don't know that I would immediately turn them away.
You're a people person. You love people, and I think everyone has a limit. Like, if it was happening like a daily, then yeah, you get sick of it. I recently listened to a podcast that I mentioned earlier where he went and did the Breaking Bad tour, not tour, but like run on the map where they went through, and you can go to the house. You can go to Walt's house, and The people that own that house hate fans. Hate that people come to their house. There's like a sign right out front. If you he had this experience, like he went there and she like came out and started yelling at him and stuff. Like they do not like that their house was used for the movie, and they get mad at anyone who comes by. And so that's unfortunate. I don't know the situation. I don't know if they bought the house after or if they owned it and they just let them use it and they regret letting them use it because they did. Of course, you don't know. Like, people use stuff for movies all the time. You don't know what's going to become this big.
They couldn't have known how popular that was going to be.
Yeah. But yeah, that's cool. I'd like to do that someday. You can also go to like the car wash and stuff.
AMC Comics says if it were to happen, Cap to Cap, the guy or gal would probably be all like, "Okay, I'm ready for a commentary on Batman '89."
Hey, that should be a Patreon perk. If you come to Cap's store, you can also do a Batman '89 commentary.
Did somebody mention a commentary on Batman '89?
Wow, this is becoming such a.
Somebody bring that up again?
It's like a Riddler.
Anyway. Okay, so we are right at 2 hours. I want to go ahead and bid everybody farewell now. Thanks a lot for being here. Hope you had a good time. We certainly did. We will be back for the 200th episode next week. We're going to do a whopping 4-hour show. We'll take a couple breaks in the middle here and there. We will probably have a surprise or two for you, and I'm going to do After Dark here in about 15 minutes, so jump over to Patreon if you want to hang out with us there. It's going to be me and Brandon and Austin and possibly Dan Torrey. Patreon.com/Geekvolution. $2 tier, get you access to that. This weekend, here are the events. Tomorrow night, Austin and I are going to be doing a blind commentary on some episodes of 60s Batman. If you want to get if you want to request an episode for that, you can still do that in the social media tab on YouTube. I've got a post there about that, and you can nominate an episode. I haven't decided which episodes we're watching yet, and we're not going to watch them ahead of time. We're just going to hang out and watch them with you, and that will be a lot of fun. That is a show that is not readily streaming anywhere except for, I think, Tubi, but I think there's commercials in it. So it'll be easier to watch with us if you have the discs, but there is kind of a way to do it streaming as well. That is a free service, but you'll have to navigate the commercial issue. Sunday, if all goes according to plan, I'm going to be doing a new unscripted episode of Superhero Rewind, Superhero Rewind the podcast. And that's going to be also a 60s Batman thing. 60s Batman all weekend. That's going to be Batman versus Two-Face, the Adam West movie posthumously after he died, which is sad, but the movie was cool, so I'm glad that he got to get the lines in for that. And that'll be a lot of fun to talk about. So anyway, thanks for being here. Hope you had fun, and we will see you again next time. DJ, thanks for everything, buddy. Appreciate you.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And here comes Brandon for After Dark. Come hang out with us on After Dark. See you later, folks.